Alright, let's talk about Tesla quality control, and more specifically, quality control on their new Model Y.
We're going to talk about what this means for Tesla as a company, and also get into the individual stories of a bunch of other Tesla Model Y owners and what issues theirs came with.
I've already made 2 videos talking about quality control on the Tesla Model Y, because when I got mine it had quite a few issues, and there were a few that Tesla couldn't seem to fix at first after multiple appointments. And then I made a follow-up video where they were able to fix all those issues, and at this point I think everything is done, and it was 4 service appointments. It seems like for this issue there are 2 camps, and I'm somewhere in the middle. The first camp is people that are like, this means that Tesla is a terrible company, they're horrible, end of story. The second group of people tend to be like, you're blowing this out of proportion, stop being a whiny baby talking about these issues, Tesla is perfect and can do no wrong. I'm somewhere in the middle of those, along with most Model Y owners and reviewers that I've seen. These quality control issues are bad, and they're something Tesla absolutely needs to remedy. But for the time being, it's kind of what it is when you get a Tesla. It's kind of what you need to expect, that there's going to be some quality control issues, and the core functionality of the car for most people is still worth it. At this point, we can't not talk about this, because it seems like if you buy a Model Y, there's like over a 75% chance you're going to need to take it into a service appointment right after delivery. I mean, even Marques Brownlee, one of the biggest tech YouTubers out there, was given a Model Y by Tesla to review. So they knew he was going to look over it, they knew he was going to take video of it, all that stuff, and it still came with quite a few issues. There was a large panel gap he noticed, the sun visor itself was loose, the hazard button was kind of off place, the lip on the front trunk was uneven, and his spoiler was coming off of the back. But for him, he's less picky, and he said he's focused on things like handling, how it drives in the 0 to 60, and in his words, he said the Model Y crushes it. Now, in my opinion, that's a pretty big gamble on Tesla's part, because instead of making sure the vehicle is perfect and then delivering it, they're delivering it with kind of mediocre quality control and then having the customer bring it into a service center to then make it perfect. This is a gamble for Tesla because every experience at every service center is going to be different, and it could leave you with a really great or really bad taste in your mouth when it comes to Tesla. On top of this, with no other car are you expected to buy it brand new and then bring it right into service. Like, you paid for the car and you're now responsible for getting it fixed to be perfect. Which is why I make these videos, so that people who are going to buy a Model Y will know what they're in for before they go to get it. So let's get into that gamble a little bit. I wanted to talk to other customers getting Model Ys delivered and talk about what it's been like for them dealing with issues. Do they still love the car after the issues, or do they want to get their money back? Also, while we're gambling, if you're not already, make sure you subscribe to this channel for lots more updates about the Model Y and Tesla in general. Over the last couple months, there have been quite a few people reaching out to me on Twitter with their Model Y issues, so I decided to get a breakdown of the issues from each of them and get their overall opinions. Now, I'm not going to get into every single issue that everyone's had, because for one, people are more picky than other people, and some of the issues, even for me, are a little extreme. And then 2, I want to focus on some of the main issues that have been affecting Model Y owners across the board. Additionally, it's important to keep in mind that if you get a Model Y that's delivered and it's 100% perfect, you're probably less inclined to post or tweet at someone about it than you are if it comes with a bunch of issues. Now, if we start with my car, all of the issues were pretty easy to fix besides 2 things. The first was the rear seat alignment. Now, this is an issue that a ton of people have had, and they were able to fix it on my car. It's one of those things that you could get used to, and I was able to line them up to make it look flush just by reclining one of the seats, but as soon as I would fold them again, I would notice it again, and I could get used to it, but why would I want to get used to that on a $50,000 to $70,000 car? The other issue I had was the only one that actually affected the driving of the car, and that was the front trunk bug. It would think that the front trunk was open, even when it wouldn't, so it would force me to take control if I was in autopilot. Just this issue alone took 2 service appointments for Tesla to fix, because the first time they tried replacing the sensor and it wasn't the right fix after all. And that brings us to the first Model Y owner I talked to, Antonio, who only had a few issues on his car, and his VIN was just under 3,000. He said, quote, "Front passenger side headlight went out in the first 2 days I had the car. It was easily fixed a few days later. The front trunk is open while driving warning was a huge headache, but it was finally fixed." Both pretty serious issues there, because if a headlight is out, that can be a little bit dangerous. And the front trunk bug, if you're cruising along on autopilot, it can be very jarring that it just knocks you out of it all of a sudden. It's also distracting to just have it flashing at you all the time while you're driving. After the experience of going through 3 service appointments and having his car just sitting there for 5 days or so waiting for parts, he said everything is fine now, so he doesn't seem too positive or too negative on the car. Next up is Marshall Chambers. He had a few smaller issues around the car, as well as 2 two pretty sizable panel gaps. Tesla fixed the door gap that you can see here since it actually affected the window, but they would not fix this trunk gap. A primary example of the factory's bad quality control can be seen in his AC rattle. He said it was rattling, he brought it in, the technician verified that it was rattling, and he said they actually never removed the plastic covers that go inside the AC vents at the factory. So this whole time it's just been collecting debris. So Marshall had 3 separate appointments for this issue, and when I asked how he likes the car now, he said, quote, "I still love the car. I'm a little annoyed at having to push them to clean these items up, but would do it all over again. Pretty sure it's driven further than me now." Next up is Darren Workman. He has a very low VIN Model Y, under 500, and he's had 4 service appointments and has another one coming up. He's had a lot of smaller issues like the coat hangers not working, which actually happened in my car, as well as the door handle not sitting flush and the back window not working properly. His main issue is that the trim on the interior of the liftgate is coming loose and should be flush with the trunk, as you can see. Additionally, the big one is the rear seats. The seat is separated pretty far, misaligned, and the panel on the back of the seat is coming loose. After detailing all these issues, he said, quote, "With all this said, I still love the car and have a passion for Tesla. It's just incredibly frustrating to get the car and it have this many issues that haven't been resolved. If they had been fixed from the first appointment, no problem, but 5 appointments later." And I definitely feel him there. We probably both got our Model Ys pretty early on, so they definitely didn't have all the parts they needed, which is part of why we had to have so many service appointments. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up so that more people can find it. And now moving on to Eduardo, who is a Model Y owner with a VIN just under 4,000. He sent a detailed list of the issues with the car, as you can see, tons of small issues and a few larger ones. The biggest being that the door panels are clearly different shades of white. There was an obvious scuff and scratch right where the headlight is, along with another scuff on the front bumper, a scuff on the corner of the screen, and some messed up trim on the windows. After all of those issues and 5 separate service appointments, Eduardo said that he loves the car even more now, and it's just frustrating to have to take it for so many appointments, and luckily he had the time to do so, because if you were too busy to bring it in for service, going in 5 times is pretty absurd. But he said definitely would buy again, and followed it up with this photo of the car saying, "This is how it looks after all services, piece of art." And next we have Durin, who is a Model Y owner with a VIN just under 2,000, but interestingly enough, his was only delivered last month. The issues he listed were that both of the back lights were misaligned, especially where the charger is, and there's a misaligned seal around the door with an exposed wire, the speaker on the door is misaligned, the upholstery on the hatch is peeling off, and there's a large gap between the hatch and the trim similar to Darren, along with this wire hanging out from under the car. He still hasn't gotten all these things fixed, but when I asked him what he thinks about the car now, he said, quote, "I absolutely love this car. Best car I've ever driven. All the defects are unfortunate, but the experience of driving more than makes up for it." Jeff Bosky, if I'm pronouncing that right, is a Model Y owner with a VIN in the range of 9 to 10,000. He's a well-known poker YouTuber and has actually had one of the worst experiences I've seen with Tesla service. And that kind of brings up that gamble where he probably had the same amount of issues that I had. I got mine taken care of no problem, but he's had a pretty rough experience. In the 2 months he has had his car, he's had multiple service appointments, and the first appointment took about 20 days, and then when they returned it, there were still a bunch of issues. A lot of his issues were stuff that we've seen, with the charger door not being aligned correctly, some paint imperfections, and some scratches on the interior. But his service experience has been pretty terrible. I mean, that first one took 20 days, and they rented him a Ford as the car that would replace that, as opposed to, for me, for my service appointments, they gave me a Model S loaner, which I still prefer the Y, but at least you're getting a Model S instead of just some random car. His car is now in the detail shop, and they actually sent a video over where you can clearly see where Tesla marked with a marking pen on the hood of the car, and it kind of stayed on there, so that's in the paint. On top of this, when he first brought it in, he said the technician brought out the marking pen and it exploded all over his car. And a lot of his issues really haven't been fixed, and he kind of doesn't really know what they're doing with the car for so long. He's had the car for over 2 months and he's only driven about 500 miles. So when I asked him what his thoughts are of the car after this, he said, "I am pretty frustrated at all the problems, but I try to stay optimistic when battling through the hard times and to look forward to the good times." I mean, that's still pretty optimistic right there. If I had had his experience, I would not be that positive about this car. And that's that gamble that we're talking about with Tesla. For a lot of people, if they have that experience, they're just going to say, forget it, I'm never buying a Tesla again. So Ryan Wallace took delivery of his Model Y Performance in March, and he also has a YouTube channel which you can check out as well. So he's had around 9 issues with his car. The first being that it just didn't come with the spoiler that it was supposed to come with. It also didn't come with the dual motor performance badge that it was supposed to come with. On top of this, he said the spoiler has actually been replaced 3 times by mobile service, and it's peeling off again and is going to have to be replaced again. When the car was delivered, there was a rip in the back seat and the hanger didn't work, and now he's having the biggest issue I've seen of anyone's Model Y. He's having the paint actually peeling off of the bumper. He seems pretty positive about it because Tesla has treated him well so far, and they even are going to fix that paint on the bumper. When I asked about his experience, he said, quote, "While there have been a lot of repairs, I wouldn't trade the car in for anything. The shortfalls of QC don't come close to the tech and drive experience of the car, but that's just my opinion." He said we should come to expect this from Tesla, but not accept it. So in the meantime, we make sure that they fix these things at service appointments, because a lot of people say, why don't you just reject it at delivery? Well, you're rejecting something that you want and that is probably going to be just the same as the next one. So if you reject a Model Y, then the next one they bring you is probably going to have the same issues since, as I mentioned, we're seeing these issues across the board. I've heard so many stories about Model Y issues at this point that it seems like the question is, what issues did your Model Y come with, as opposed to, did it come with any issues? So I tweeted to see if anyone had taken delivery of a Model Y and had no issues whatsoever. I got a few responses, and the first one was pretty funny. Crickets. And then a couple owners who had no or next to no issues. Jeremy here said, quote, "Fit and finish is awesome on ours. This was the only very minor issue I found. Can't even hardly see it in the pic. Plus, I've pushed on it more than once and think it is better. Not a problem." Then the user KK Tesla Model Y said, "Had just one gap, right rear wheels arch meeting side member." Michael said, quote, "I got my Model Y around 4 weeks ago. I don't notice any real fit and finish issues. I didn't go over things with a fine-tooth comb." So that's that point I was talking about earlier, where some people are going to be super particular and notice every single possible flaw with the car, and some people are not going to look over it with a fine-tooth comb and see that the car looks great from the outside. But my guess would also be that Michael has a great build of the car without loud squeaks or anything in the car, and not things that are interrupting the driving like the front trunk bug. And lastly, the user Where's the Free Wi-Fi said, quote, "Only issue I have is the pick, which you can see here, and slight steering wheel misalignment, which is an easy fix. Other than that, it's amazing. Love it more than my Model 3. Another user who said their Model Y was great and they haven't noticed any issues got theirs very recently, and that's Roland. You can see these pictures of the outside of the car. He basically got the better version of my car because the white interior I think really makes it pop. And he hasn't noticed any issues on his car either, and it doesn't seem like he's going to need to schedule a service appointment. And then there have been quite a few people on Reddit, on Twitter, and even commenting on articles talking about quality control issues who haven't had any issues whatsoever. But based on the people I surveyed, it seems like maybe only 2 of them are not going to be going into a service appointment. The rest of them are planning to do so or have already done so. So they're hoping that most customers will find it worth that struggle and would still want to buy one again. I mean, for me, I love the car and I would go through this again because I love the core functionality of the car and now everything is great. But I would at least have the mindset that I know this is part of buying a Tesla. I'm not going to drive it off the lot and expect it to be perfect. I'm going to drive it off the lot, take note of a bunch of things that need to get fixed, and then get it fixed at a service appointment. And again, these are fit and finish issues, not the way the car drives and not the safety of the car itself. Those things seem to be solid in the Model Y. If you look at the car simply for build quality, of course there's going to be other luxury cars priced at the same price that are going to have better build quality. And that's the toss-up. Tesla service centers are going to vary by nature, and some people will have great experiences and some people will have bad experiences. But they're not going to be as easy to drive or drive as fast as electric cars, and even if they are electric, they're not going to get the same range that a Tesla gets. And this is why Teslas keep selling, even though they're prioritizing quantity over quality. I mean, they're keeping investors happy, their stock price continues to soar, and they keep delivering a ton of cars, but at the same time, their reputation for quality control pretty much stays bad. I guess the only silver lining here is that Tesla will fix these issues for free for customers, or at least under warranty. At the end of the day, this should not be happening on cars that are this expensive, and I absolutely think Tesla needs to focus more on quality than quantity. But it might be something that they can't or won't address for years. I mean, if people like me keep buying their cars anyway, seems like this whole service center thing is going to be part of their business model. A little later, the guy from Unbox Therapy was talking about Model Y issues and pointing out that Tesla has only been around since 2003. When you compare that to a company like Toyota, they've been around since 1937, so they've had decades and decades to work on quality control issues. Tesla will absolutely need to get there in order to compete, but for the time being, if they're selling something compelling that you want, you're just going to have patience and deal with this, because if you want that, that's what it comes with. But what do you think? I mean, some people are obviously going to say we're just Elon's guinea pigs and we're falling for it. But Tesla is a very new company. They make a compelling product and they do have a lot of room for improvement. So do you think they'll improve on quality control soon, or do you think this will just be part of Tesla's legacy for a while? Let me know what you think in the comments below. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to this channel for lots more updates about the Model Y, Tesla, and tech in general. You can also check out my second channel called And More, where I'm getting more in depth on certain subjects. Make sure to like this video if you appreciated it, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at RyanShawTech. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.